The silence of space was endless, but inside the Cassini spacecraft, the air buzzed with anticipation. Greg sat strapped into the command seat, eyes fixed on the screen in front of him. Sophie leaned over the console, reviewing their descent protocols for the third time. Kyle, restless as always, hovered by the observation window, tapping his fingers on the glass. "Coming up on Pandora's surface," Greg said, his voice calm but tight with focus. Pandora, one of Saturn's lesser-known moons, had long been overlooked, until recent deep scans showed possible traces of water beneath its frozen exterior. The mission was simple in theory: land, collect data, and bring samples back to Earth. But no one had expected the readings they were now seeing. As the Cassini landed, snow-like dust scattered around them. Outside, the surface shimmered in streaks of blue and silver under the moon's fractured light. The trio suited up and stepped outside into an alien silence. Then they saw it. About 30 meters ahead, nestled between jagged black rock formations, was a glistening pool of liquid, clear and glassy, disturbingly calm. "Is that—" Sophie trailed off, taking a few steps forward. Greg nodded slowly. "Water. It has to be." Kyle grinned, already pulling equipment from his pack. "Let's get a sample before this turns into another false reading." Greg hesitated. "Careful. We have no idea what this stuff could do." Kyle gave a mock salute. "Caution is my middle name." He approached the edge of the pool and dipped a boot in. "It's freezing," he muttered, stepping in up to his knees. A gentle ripple fanned out, but the surface calmed almost instantly. Sophie joined him, stepping carefully beside Kyle as he pulled out the AI-supported water analyzer. The tool whirred and blinked, scanning the sample in real time. "Composition appears standard," the AI announced in a smooth tone. "pH 7.0. No immediate anomalies detected." Greg stood back from the water, watching. The eerie calm of the place unsettled him. Then Kyle tilted his head, peering into the pool. "Wait, I think there's something weird." "What do you mean?" Greg asked, turning slightly. Kyle didn't answer. Greg turned fully around. "Kyle?" Sophie looked over her shoulder. "He was just right here." But Kyle was gone. "What the hell?" Greg muttered, stepping toward the pool, scanning the area. "Did you see where he went?" "No," Sophie said, backing away from the water. "He was right beside me." "Get out of the water now," Greg ordered. But before Sophie could move, a force yanked her under with a violent splash. Her scream was short, choked off in an instant. "Sophie!" Greg charged forward, reaching for her, but the water surged upward, a massive column rising like a hand reaching for him. Greg stumbled back, heart pounding. The water twisted unnaturally, alive with motion. He turned and sprinted toward the ship, his boots pounding against the hard ground, the roar of the rushing water behind him growing louder. The ramp slammed shut just as he dove inside. He was soaked, shaking, gasping for air. Alarms blared as the onboard systems registered movement outside the hull. He lunged toward the comm panel. "This is Commander Greg Mallory of the Cassini crew. We've discovered water on Pandora. 2 crew members, Kyle and Sophie, are missing. Something is wrong. We're under attack. Coordinates transmitting now. We need assistance immediately." As he finished sending the message, The ship lurched violently, nearly throwing him to the floor. A deep rumble shook the walls. Something was pounding against the outside. Greg gritted his teeth and strapped himself into the captain's chair, trying to steady his breath. The message had gone out. That was all he could do now. Outside, the black pool of water rippled again, silent, waiting. The sound of Admiral Doreen's heels echoed across the cold steel floor of Space Force Command. Her face was unreadable as she entered the briefing room where Jennifer, Cliff, and Colonel William were already waiting. A monitor behind her displayed a paused transmission. Greg's desperate message, frozen mid-frame. "Thank you for coming on such short notice," Doreen said, wasting no time on greetings. "We received a distress signal from the Cassini crew on Pandora. Since then, we've lost all contact." Jennifer leaned forward. "Cassini? That's Greg's mission." Her tone was sharp but controlled. Cliff noticed and gave her a sideways glance. Doreen nodded. "Yes, he sent the signal himself, moments before the ship went offline. We're assembling a rescue unit to investigate. The three of you have been selected for critical roles." She gestured toward William. "Colonel William will oversee the mission remotely from Earth. He'll coordinate the operation from this base." Then she turned to the couple. "Jennifer, you'll lead the medical evaluation and emergency response. Cliff, you'll assist in environmental diagnostics and structural assessment." Jennifer looked at Doreen, brow furrowed. "You're sending us up there?" "We are, and you won't be alone. Commander Hank will pilot the main ship and tow the medical craft. Your team will be equipped for rapid intervention." Cliff raised an eyebrow. "Hank? Wasn't he grounded after the Chinese satellite incident?" Doreen didn't flinch. "Yes. He destroyed a Chinese military craft during a classified conflict. But he's the only pilot who's made it through the Pandora corridor and lived to tell about it." Jennifer crossed her arms. "We're trusting our lives to someone with a trigger finger." Colonel William cut in. "You'll be safer with him than without. Hank knows how to fly under pressure. He's the best shot we have." Still unconvinced, Jennifer opened her mouth but then stopped as Doreen pressed a button on the console. A holographic diagram of the wormhole system flickered to life. "This is how you'll reach Pandora. Through a wormhole. We call it Gate 7. Cliff leaned in. "That trip normally takes months." Doreen nodded. "Gate 7 will cut it to under 10 minutes, but there's a limit. The wormhole remains open for only 10 hours. Once it closes, it won't reopen for another 6 months." Jennifer exhaled slowly. "So we've got a 10-hour window to find the crew, evaluate them, and get back." Doreen paused before speaking again. "There's more. Jennifer, I know you and Greg used to be involved." Cliff turned sharply. "What?" Jennifer's jaw clenched. "That was a long time ago." Doreen didn't back down. "I need to know if this will affect your judgment." Jennifer looked at Cliff, then back at Doreen. "No," she said with an uneasy smile. "It won't." "Are you sure?" "I said no," she repeated more firmly. Cliff studied her, his expression tight. "How do you know so much about Greg's mission?" Doreen stepped back, dodging the question. His main objective was to find water on Pandora. It's possible that water contains dangerous bacteria or unknown organisms. If they're exposed, the clock is already ticking. Jennifer nodded. Then I have to go. We don't have time to debate it. William stepped in. Agreed. You and Cliff will conduct immediate assessments once you arrive. Focus on extraction, not long-term research. The briefing ended with Doreen issuing a final warning. You leave in 1 hour. Inside the hangar, the crew gathered at the foot of the massive spacecraft. Technicians buzzed around, prepping equipment. Jennifer and Cliff suited up while soldiers loaded supplies onto the med transport module. Hank arrived last, tall and sharp-eyed, his flight suit crisp, his expression unreadable. I heard someone's nervous about flying with me, he said to Jennifer as he passed. Just land us in one piece, she muttered. He smiled faintly. Deal. Minutes later, the engines roared to life. The ship lifted off and entered orbit. Hank's voice came over the comms. Brace for wormhole entry. It's going to get rough. As they approached Gate 7, the stars warped, the sky folding in on itself. The moment they crossed into the wormhole, the pressure hit like a hammer. The walls groaned, lights flickered. Suddenly, the console flashed red. Warning, hull pressure rising, structural integrity compromised, the AI announced. Cliff unbuckled, rushing to the engineering bay. I need tools, now, he shouted. Jennifer moved to assist, throwing him gear as he accessed the ship's thermal regulators. The crew scrambled. Sparks flew from a vent. A low creak shuddered through the ship like a warning. Cliff rerouted the flow, resetting the pressure valves. 3, 2, now! The alarms stopped. The ship stabilized. The groaning ceased. Silence. Everyone exhaled. Hank looked back through the cockpit door and nodded toward Cliff. Not bad for a guy who thought I couldn't land a ship. Cliff didn't answer. He was too busy checking Jennifer's vitals. She gave him a nod, still breathing hard. Outside the window, a swirling orb of ice and ocean loomed large. Pandora. The ship emerged from the wormhole and slowed into orbit. Hank guided them toward the coordinates from Greg's transmission. As the landing gear deployed, William's voice came through the comms from Earth. Your window has started. You have 9 hours and 48 minutes remaining. The team secured their helmets, loaded their gear, and stepped out into the harsh light of Pandora. What they didn't know was that the nightmare had only just begun. Pandora's surface was more stunning than any image or scan had ever suggested. The light shifted with surreal speed, as if the moon couldn't make up its mind between night and day. Massive rock spires pierced the sky like teeth, and the terrain gleamed under an atmosphere of swirling ice vapor and fractured light. But despite the beauty, no one on the ground let their guard down. Jennifer, Cliff, and the rest of the rescue team moved cautiously across the jagged surface, their suits sealed tight, their boots crunching over frozen ground. Hank stayed in the cockpit, monitoring vitals and weather patterns from above, his AI companion constantly scanning the environment. Colonel William trailed near the rear of the group, armed and alert. They reached the last known coordinates of the Cassini. What they found didn't match what they expected. There, one of the soldiers pointed. That's the ship. Jennifer stepped forward, her voice tight in her helmet's comms. Cassini looks wrong. The ship was half buried in the ground, its surface covered in streaks and crust, almost as if it had been submerged underwater for years, despite there being no visible water source nearby. The metal hull was warped in places, like it had been exposed to immense heat or pressure. "That's impossible," Cliff said. "The scans didn't show any water in this region, and Pandora has no oceans." He didn't finish his thought. A low hum passed through the ground beneath them. Then, slowly, a pool of water began forming just a few meters away, spreading outward like a living thing. The team backed away instinctively. Out of the center of the pool, a vertical structure began to rise, a rod-like column made entirely of water, holding shape against gravity. It pulsed and twisted, the surface rippling as if studying them. "Open fire," one of the soldiers shouted. Weapons discharged instantly, beams and projectiles slicing through the air, striking the water figure. But it didn't flinch. The rounds passed through it, disappearing with barely a splash. The creature held firm, untouched. Suddenly, a deep thrum came from Cassini. Its engines lit up on their own. "Someone's powering it up," Cliff yelled. "No one should be able to from the outside," William said. Back on the main ship, Hank's AI lit up with an alert. An unidentified craft was approaching their airspace. Hank's eyes narrowed. "AI, scan the incoming vessel." "No body heat detected," the AI replied. "Ship appears empty or non-viable for sustaining life." "Destroy it," Hank ordered. The AI locked on and launched a strike. The foreign ship exploded mid-air, scattering debris across the horizon. Back on the ground, Jennifer noticed something lying just ahead. She broke into a run. "Wait!" Cliff shouted. She ignored him, dropping to her knees beside two still bodies in the snow. She recognized them instantly. Sophie and Kyle. "Oh my God," she muttered, activating her scanner. Their vitals were faint, almost undetectable. But there. Then Sophie gasped. Kyle jerked forward, coughing violently. "Help me," Jennifer shouted. "They're alive!" The soldiers rushed over. At that moment, a figure emerged from the shadows near the ruined Cassini, hands raised in surrender. "Don't shoot," he called out. "It's me, Jennifer. You know me." She froze, squinting through her visor. "Greg?" He nodded, stumbling forward. "I don't remember what happened. 1 minute we were collecting data, then nothing." Jennifer helped Sophie up and called for stretchers. Kyle was still unconscious but breathing. William stepped in front of her as she moved to lift him. "We don't know what they're carrying," he warned. "We let them on that ship. We risk bringing a contamination with them." "I'm medical lead," Jennifer shot back. "That makes it my call." The two stared each other down, tension thick between them. Finally, William relented with a nod. "Do what you have to, but keep them isolated." Jennifer didn't waste time. She and Cliff hauled Sophie and Kyle toward the medical bay in the towed rescue ship. Greg followed in silence. As the ramp closed behind them, Doreen's voice crackled over the comms. Hank patched her through. "Why did you destroy that ship?" she demanded, furious. "It was empty. No life signs." "Better safe than sorry," Hank said evenly. "That ship was worth billions. Next time, you better have proof before you fire." Then she added, her voice low and cold, No one boards your ship again unless you're absolutely sure they're clean. If there's any contamination, any chance of infection, Earth will nuke you before you get near orbit. Understood? Copy that, Hank replied, jaw clenched. Meanwhile, back in the medical bay, Jennifer and Cliff laid Kyle on a warming table and attached an oxygen pack. Greg sat quietly nearby, his expression blank, while Sophie stared at the floor, shivering. Jennifer began running scans. "I don't get it," she muttered. "Their vitals are weak but stable. No visible injuries, but something's off." Then one of the soldiers monitoring the outside perimeter shouted into the comms, "It's back! The water! It moved again!" Screams erupted over the channel. A soldier had been pulled into the pool. Others fired into the rippling water with no effect. Seconds later, the missing soldier was ejected from the pool, his body hurled through the air, crashing to the ground with a sickening thud. "He's dead," someone said. Realizing they were outmatched, the squad retreated toward the ship. Inside, Jennifer checked Kyle again. His temperature was dropping, so Cliff increased the warming table's output. Minutes later, Kyle began sweating profusely. "Cut the heat," Jennifer snapped. Cliff pulled back, but it was too late. Kyle sat upright and vomited water. Then he collapsed. "Quarantine them, now!" Jennifer shouted. "Sophie, Greg, into the other room." Sophie refused. "I'm not infected," she insisted, backing away. "Protocol," Jennifer yelled. Sophie's hand darted toward a table. She grabbed a plasma pistol and pointed it at them. "No one's locking me in," she screamed. The soldiers from the failed attack burst into the room, weapons raised. "Drop the weapon." Sophie's body lurched. She vomited violently, this time right onto Colonel William. William staggered, grabbing his stomach. "Get him out," Jennifer ordered. "He's infected." They dragged William out as Sophie collapsed, unconscious. Greg stepped forward, breathing hard. "I didn't touch the water. I'm clean." Jennifer didn't answer. Her mind was already racing. Cliff moved beside her. "What now?" She looked down at the unconscious bodies in front of her. "We find out what's living in that water," she said, "and we stop it before it stops us." The countdown clock blinked red in the corner of the screen. 1 hour and 59 minutes before the wormhole closed. After that, there would be no way back. Not for 6 months. Not for anyone left behind. Jennifer stood in the middle of the medical bay, surrounded by the chaos of survival. Sophie was unconscious, Kyle barely breathing. William, quarantined behind reinforced glass, had begun twitching, his skin pale, eyes red. The infection was accelerating. Cliff was silent, still by her side, but Jennifer could feel the weight pressing on both of them. She stared at her data logs. Salt, saline, chlorine, pH balance. They were close, but the parasite was changing faster than she could track. Then something clicked. "Oil repels water," she whispered, eyes widening. "What?" Cliff asked. She turned. "Water can't bond with oil. That's why the creature couldn't get past the ship's outer layer once we coated it." He nodded slowly. "So what, you want to repel it on a cellular level?" Jennifer was already moving. "Exactly. If we can alter the internal environment, make the body hostile to the parasite, We might push it out, disrupt the bond, force it to detach. They gathered everything they had: intravenous fluids, salt mixtures, emergency chemical agents. Jennifer prepared a custom saline blend, tested to spike internal salinity and shift the host's pH. A gamble. One dose might help. The wrong dose could kill. "I'll go first," she said, sliding the needle into her arm. Cliff grabbed her wrist. "Are you out of your mind?" "There's no time," she said, locking eyes with him. "If this works, I'll know in minutes. If it doesn't..." Her voice trailed off. The fluid flowed into her veins. Cold, sharp. For a few seconds, nothing. Then the world tilted. Her vision blurred. Pain exploded in her chest and she collapsed. Greg stepped forward from the corner where he had been quietly watching. "She'll be fine," he said calmly. "It's already done." Cliff froze. "What?" "I switched the IV bag." Greg's tone was eerily calm. "She just injected herself with water from the lake." Before anyone could react, 2 soldiers burst into the room, weapons drawn. They tackled Greg, yanking him to the floor. "She's going into shock," Cliff shouted. One of the soldiers ran to get the original 4th. Cliff didn't wait. He slammed the real saline into Jennifer's arm. Seconds stretched. Her breathing went shallow. Then, slowly, her pulse returned to normal. She coughed, blinked, and opened her eyes. "What happened?" she murmured. "Greg happened," Cliff said, wrapping her in a thermal blanket. "But I fixed it." They threw Greg in containment alongside William. He didn't resist, just sat down and closed his eyes. Jennifer stood on shaky legs. "I know what to do now." They administered the adjusted saline to Kyle and Sophie. The response was immediate. Convulsions, coughing, then color returning to their faces. Minutes later, the AI confirmed it. No traces of the parasite in their systems. Outside, the water creature had changed tactics. It no longer attacked in waves. It studied, adapted, and then it began to copy. A monstrous duplicate of their ship formed from water and lunged. Hank, still in the main craft, fired every defense system he had. The creature broke apart but reformed seconds later. "Get ready for takeoff," Jennifer said into the comms. "We're coming now." But the water wasn't finished. From the ground, tentacles erupted, hundreds of feet tall, wrapping around the terrain, tearing into the landscape itself. "We need more time," Cliff yelled, bracing as the ship shook under the impact of a tentacle slamming into the rear module. Jennifer had one last idea. "Engine coolant, nitrogen." They flooded the interior with pressurized nitrogen gas. The effect was instant. The creature froze, cracked, and retreated from the ship, retreating like it had been burned. The AI chimed in. "Life form presence eliminated." "Let's move," Hank shouted. "Wormhole closes in 6 minutes." The ship lifted off, engines groaning under the strain. They climbed out of Pandora's atmosphere, breaking free of the tentacles reaching toward them like dying limbs. Then a final horror. A chunk of the creature, undetected, clung to the rear of the ship. Earth had been watching. A nuke was already in motion. Jennifer saw it on the screen. "They're going to destroy us." "Not if we kill it first," Cliff said. He rushed to the engine core with 2 soldiers. The infected fragment lunged at them, pulling one man into the turbine. The others fired until the fragments splashed and dissolved in steam. Nitrogen deployed, the AI said. Structure is clean. Life form terminated. They broke through the wormhole seconds before it sealed behind them. On the other side, Earth's blue hue welcomed them. Calm, familiar, safe. The ship descended slowly, landing in the thick, silent waters of the Jordanian Sea. Greg stood quietly beside Jennifer, eyes scanning the horizon. This water, what if it's still alive? Jennifer exhaled. It won't survive here. Too salty, too hostile. Cliff joined them at the viewport, his arm brushing Jennifer's. We made it. Outside, the waves lapped gently against the ship, unaware of what had nearly crossed into their world. The threat was gone, for now. But deep below Pandora's frozen shell, something had learned their names, and it was still watching.